Hi, WoW Soloist here, and this is a quick little video on what I think might be coming in the Mythic videos, the cinematics that are linked to the Mythic N'Zoth fight. Things are going well on the Mythic First and World First, and I think they're going to hit N'Zoth in the next couple of days. So this is in a way an addendum to my reaction video or replacement of my reaction video for the Wrathion cinematic at the killing of N'Zoth. Basically, and the end cinematic after the killing of N'Zoth on Herioc. Basically, another wild speculation item here. My wild guess on this one is that we are not done with Ny'alotha yet in that raid, no matter what Eon says. The way that Ny'alotha, the center of the city, disintegrated but didn't fall apart, unlike the towers on the edge, which were never lit up with light or azurite, they just simply crumbled like an earthquake. But the center part of the city, one pyramid blew apart, or it appeared like it did, big cracks of golden light appearing, one eyeball blows out, but you don't see that pyramid actually crumble. Then you see the whole city itself, the center of the city, develop white cracks everywhere and basically start to shimmer in a bath of white light in all different chunks, but nothing has fallen apart, nothing has cracked to the ground, nothing has disintegrated to dust, and then the whole screen goes white. To me, that white looks more like the kind of teleporter that you would see in like an old Star Trek, original Star Trek or TNG, where the people sort of go glow white and then disappear into fragments that pop away and disappear somewhere else. The fact that Ny'alotha itself did not actually crumble into dust on the ground, but just simply seemed to divide itself, I guess, into chunks and then disappear into a ghostly haze of white light. What happens if Ny'alotha is a living being? It's the sleeping city, the waking city. Maybe it's alive. Maybe it just died. And if it just died, where is it going to go? Well, we know the old gods have some link to the Shadowlands, so perhaps Ny'alotha is going to reappear in the Shadowlands. This cool piece of speculation fits with one of the early pieces of the Shadowlands leak, which proved to be mainly correct. And that is the original map did not have Orbis in the center. It had a portal to Ny'alotha. And so maybe that is still going to be incorporated. Maybe there will be a Ny'alotha Suramar City type zone, but they were unable to do it for 8.3, 8.3.5, and so they simply moved it to 9.0. Maybe it was meant to be 9.0 in the first place, and the raid got moved up into 8.3. Who knows? There seems to be some juggling going on. So that's the feeling I have there. Also, I don't think that the Knaifu got destroyed when it got thrust into N'Zoth and Wrathion got thrown away by this, again, blast of white light. And he looks down in amazement at his hand and he sees he does not have the knife anymore. And then he looks back, and I don't see that look as cynical. I think the art team did an amazing job with that look on his face. It's like the wonder of, like, where did the knife go, to all of a sudden dawns on his face is understanding. And then the little grin to me suggests, hey, good move. Appreciation that he was played, that he was used to do this, and that something else was happening that he had not anticipated. So I still think that Knaifu plays a role in encapsulating N'Zoth, whether it becomes a Horcrux and he deliberately put himself into it, or it becomes a prison that either Xal'atath or Azshara have arranged for him, since Azshara gave Wrathion the blade and told him how to use it, and then beetled off to find N'Zoth's bosses, which is very interesting. So those of you who believe, Eon, that we're finished with the old gods, well, there's a definitely loose end of Ajara is disappearing off to see the old gods' bosses. So maybe Eon is right. It's not the old gods, it's the void gods or the void lords or whatever the old god bosses are that we're going to be dealing with next. But we still have Xal'atath around, so as an old god, so we can't write her off either. But it could be that Ajara and Xal'atath were working together, or Ajara by herself put some kind of magic into that knife that drained some of N'Zoth's essence, imprisoned him into the knife, and that white, bluish white cast that you saw could easily be Ajara's magic, drawing N'Zoth in, and the resulting explosion of energy from imprisonment would have tossed Wrathion away across the field. Um, and then the knife would have disappeared to whatever place that Ajara, if that was her doing, decided to send it when it was full. Or if N'Zoth was doing it himself, he would have perhaps, had some minion receive it. So I think there's still a lot of plot line there that we don't know. But kudos to the art team in drawing Wrathion's facial expression to go that wry sort of whoa, that well played. That's the way I sort of interpreted his face. So I think we have a lot of void, if not old god, loose ends to tie up in 9.0 going forward. And I think that ties with the disappearance of Ny'alotha at the end of the heroic raid. If they wanted it to crumble, they would have just had the white lit Ny'alotha core just crumble like all of the pink towers did around the edges, just fall into chunks on the ground. But it didn't. It stayed up. It's cracked into pieces, but none of them separate from each other. And then it just glows white, and the screen fills with white, and the cinematic is over. So my feeling with that one is that we could well see Ny'alotha again, and that it might actually be some kind of a living being, and it could appear in the Shadowlands. We may not have killed it in its natural environment, whatever dimension that we were fighting it in. And then while we're on this subject, might as well talk about the Magni wrap-up cinematic. Clearly, that one makes no sense at all. It's a very poor cinematic in that it's overly gushy and cloying and, oh, champion, you're such a wonderful being. Ugh. All right, that's just, so much sop. But if you look beyond it, it doesn't answer any of the questions. In fact, it sort of just tries to push it off. Oh, Azeroth's all fine now. You did a great job, hero. Goodbye. And this is the part of it that worries me the most. Not just the fact that it's totally ignoring the whole story of that big sword is still there now, it's over in expansion, and nothing has been done about it. Nothing we did seems to have fixed it. But on the other hand, we're now saying she's okay, she's not in pain, and you did your job, and you're a super wonderful champion, and Azeroth loves you, goodbye. It almost seems as if the writing and cinematic team have created a point in time which could be the historical end of WoW. I hope that's not what we're seeing. It would be a corny, sort of almost tacky, over the top kind of way to do it. But if the writing and cinematic team, who we know from rumors are in a conflict with the devs are insisting now that they're writing the story lore as it appears in game, and the writing team has simply been relegated to the overall plot line and writing novels and supporting material and predominantly the cinematics. So that explains why the cinematics and the game are often out of touch with each other, and that the game is just moving to simplify the story in favor of more gameplay. And so, a really cool raid with lots of mechanics, but no real story. N'Zoth just disappears with no real story wrap up. Very unsatisfying, but oh good, it was a really fun big raid mechanically. So if there is that kind of a interior battle within Blizzard going on, it would explain this cinematic, because it's almost like the writing team is saying goodbye, or the writing team, like myself, does not believe the current dev team has the capability to deliver 9.0 in the time frames that they've specified at the quality that would make a WoW release. And so if that's the case, then they may also feel that maybe Activision won't support the amount of cost that it'll take to develop it. If that were the case, then, and this is all wild speculation, but it sort of fits some facts here. In hindsight, if WoW didn't release another expansion ever, this little Magni junky cinematic would be able to stand as a sort of syrupy goodbye. If we never got anything else past 8.3 and past BFA, then this little tiny cinematic would I guess, would be seen historically as the wrap up of the game that couldn't deliver the rest. I'm hoping that this is not what's going on, right? It just fits one interpretation of that Magni cinematic, which I think is like terrible quality, but this is the only saving grace in quality, is that if this was its real intention, and I'm just hoping that's not correct. So we'll see what happens, but I wanted to put this out as a stake in the ground to say I think there's a possibility that we may be seeing Ny'alotha again. We may be seeing N'Zoth again, based on what was going on here. We certainly should be seeing Azshara again, and we certainly hope that we see WoW again after BFA. Anyway, WoW Soloist out for now.